Here is how world number 4 Arjun Erigaisi gave Magnus a taste of his own medicine. This was a game played in the FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Team Championships. This game happened in the semifinals of the Blitz section. Arjun starts the game with 1d4. Magnus responds with knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7. Magnus goes for the king's Indian. e4, d6, bishop e2. An interesting move. Here white has many options. Let's say if black plays castles, he can play bishop g5, going for the hour back variation. He has h4, an interesting line where white can try to attack from the start, and also the normal classical variation. But in the game, Magnus plays e5. Here, instead of going for a classical approach, Arjun plays d takes e5, going to the end game. D takes e5, queen takes d8, king d8, and here Arjun plays f4. A nice move. Let's say black takes on f4, then white will simply play bishop f4. And now white's going to play knight f3, castles, e5, knight d5, and all of those moves. And the move e into e4 is just simply helping white. So this is a bad move. So in the game, Magnus goes for bishop e6. Here, Arjun plays knight f3, developing the knight and putting pressure on the e5 pawn. Let's say if white plays f takes e5, then black will play knight d7 and will simply win back the pawn, and this pawn will be isolated. So Arjun did not go for that. So knight f3, knight c6. Here also white cannot take on e5 because of knight d7. Okay, so castles was played in the game by Arjun, and here Magnus makes a mistake. He plays king c8. But the move Magnus had to play was not king c8 but knight d4. Here if knight takes e5, then Magnus will play knight takes e2, knight takes e2, knight d4. And this is simply at least slightly better for black because of the bishop pair. If f takes e5, still the same. Knight takes e2, knight takes e2, and knight takes e4. But in the game, king c8 was played, and this is a mistake. Here I offer you to try to pause the video and find the best move for white. Kudos to you if you have found the answer. The move is f5. A good move. The point behind this move is, let's say black takes on f5, e takes f5, and bishop f5. Here white will simply take on e5. Knight takes e5, rook takes f5. Here the material is equal, but white is simply better. The rooks are not connected. These pieces over here are crammed and it's not really active. And all of white's pieces can quickly come into the game. And not only that, this f7 pawn is really weak. And white can put pressure by playing bishop g5 and rook f1 like moves. So this is simply better. And that is the point behind f5. Opening up the position quickly so that white can utilize the positioning of black's pieces. Let's say here black plays bishop d7. Then white can play simply bishop e3. And now this bishop is developed and this pawn is cramping the bishop on d7. And white can play moves like knight g5, putting pressure on the f7 pawn. In the game, Magnus took on g5 and then played bishop d7. Here Arjun plays knight g5, putting pressure on the f7 pawn. And here Magnus makes another mistake. Rook f8. Here he had to play bishop e8. You may think this is a dumb move, and it looks so because the bishop is going back and black can't no more connect their rooks, and also black's pieces are really cramped. But the idea is to play h6 and then bring back the bishop to d7. White is better, but this was the best option. After rook f8, which was played in the game, which is a mistake, Arjun did not find the best move. I offer you to pause the video and try to find the best move for white. I hope you have found the answer. The move is knight d5. A good move. The point is white is threatening knight takes f6, bishop takes f6 and then knight h7. And if black plays knight takes d5, then simply c takes d5. And the next move knight takes h7 is coming, f6 is coming and white is simply winning. So here black will have to play knight d4 and white will simply play bishop d3 and the same threat is there. And black will have to find moves like e4 and it's really difficult because it's a blitz game. But Arjun did not find it and Arjun played bishop e3. Okay, but this is a blitz game, so it's really hard to find all these moves. So it's fine. So bishop e3, knight d4. The idea behind knight d4 is simply to take on e2 and exchange as many pieces as possible. So black can reduce the space advantage he has. And also try to go for a draw. And here white plays bishop d3. Simply moving away the bishop. Here black plays h6 and knight g4. Here Carlsen made a blunder. He played knight takes f5. Before we go into the details, the best move for black was to take on f5 with the bishop. And now there is bishop takes d4. And you may think e takes d4, rook f5 and white is simply winning. But it's not, because after bishop takes d4, black can take on e4 with the bishop. And now after knight takes e4, if white plays bishop takes e4, this is not really good. E takes d4 and black is a pawn up and black is better. So here white will play bishop e3. And these double bishops give white the advantage. But this would have been the best option. And you may think why white has an advantage even though they are pawn down. It's because of white's piece activity. White's pieces are so active that black's pieces can't move anywhere. Let's say knight d6, then c5, knight e8 and rook d1. It's already threatening mate. Bishop f5, king b8 and rook d8. So because of all these things, white is simply better. But this would have been the best option. In the game, knight takes f5 was played. Here I offer you to pause the video once again and try to find the best move. I hope you have found the answer. The best move here is to play bishop c5 and black is simply losing material. Let's say knight takes e4, which was played in the game. Then bishop f8 and knight e4 and white is simply exchange up. And if he tries to play something like rook e8, knight takes f6, bishop takes f6, bishop f5. Simply a piece up. So after knight takes e4, white takes the rook, bishop f8, knight e4, bishop e6. And now it's just simply a matter of technique. Arjun converts this game beautifully. Rook e1, knight d4, knight f6. All kinds of developing moves. Now the pawn on e5 is under attack. White had played rook a1, bringing the rook into the game. Now putting pressure on e5. Small developing moves. Bishop d6. Now white plays king h1. A nice move. It's doing prophylaxis. At some point black may want to play bishop c5 and threaten some discoveries. So because of that, white already moves away the king, so that there are no more threats possible. And white doesn't have to think about anything. So here black plays c5. And white plays the simple developing move b3. Creating a pawn chain and also restricting the bishop. And now white can freely play bishop e4. King c7, bishop e4, a5. And Carlsen is trying to create counterplay on the queen side. Here Arjun plays bishop d5, trying to exchange the bishops. a4 and bishop takes e6. Exchanged the bishops. F takes e4 and knight e4. A nice move, sacking the pawn on b3. The point is white is going to play rook f6 and the e6 and h6 pawns will be threatened, making use of these weak pawns. A takes b3, knight takes b3 and rook f6. Now both of the pawns are attacked. knight d4, rook takes h6. Now white has two distant passed pawns, and these passed pawns will become queens. King c6, h4, bishop e7, h5, just pushing the pawns. b5, c takes b5, king d5. Carlsen is trying very hard to create counterplay on the queen side. He has created a passed pawn on the c file. Now black wants to push the c pawn and try to win back some material. Here white plays b6. Now the problem here is that the b pawn has also become a passed pawn. So it's very dangerous for black. c4, rook h7. Now black plays bishop b4, attacking the rook on e1. But Arjun doesn't care. He plays b7, rook b8, knight f6 check. And here king c6, rook b1, attacking the bishop on b4. Now black will have to lose his rook. Bishop d2, knight d7. And black is simply losing his rook. Rook takes b7, knight d5, king d5, rook takes b7. And now it's two rooks versus two minor pieces. It's simply winning. So king takes e5, rook c7, attacking the pawn on c4 and controlling the squares it can move to, and just pushing the pawns. Bishop takes h6 and rook takes e3. King e4, rook h3, bishop f4. And now just simply improving moves so that white can try to push the pawn. Bishop e3, king g2, e5, rook h5. Cutting off the king and a cutting of the king once more. Now white will simply push the pawns, and because of this, after king h3, Magnus resigned. Thanks for watching. If you loved this video, you can check out my other videos.